From two dirty painters to multiple seven-figure business owners, I'm Redion.
And I'm Karmelo.
I'll be giving you guys the insider secrets to take your trades business to the next level.
From crazy stories to proven strategies, get ready to supercharge your business with us.
Welcome to the Dirty Painters Podcast.
In today's episode, we'll be giving you 10 ways to protect yourself as a painting business owner. This is key whether you're just starting out or still growing your business. Let's get right into it. Back to the 10 reasons format. We've compiled a list for you guys on how to protect yourself as a painting business owner, eliminate liability from anything, basically. So why did you decide to do this episode this week?
Because I think all these 10 reasons that we came up with are all from personal experiences of us getting bent over backwards. So we're like, okay, let's put out why we think every reason needs to be there in every business, not only painting, so you can protect yourself. Because a lot of times people will take advantage of situations and then it's your fault that you didn't take precautions or you didn't do your due diligence to protect your business, your brand, your crews, yourself, whatever it has to do about getting protected pretty much. So protect yourself at all times. Like
the referees say, yeah.
So let's start with the first one, and then we'll give you guys just a little bit background for context. We're not getting into very specific details, why and what happened or mention anything, but we'll just give you like basic context so you can understand why we came up with each reason and then how we're protecting ourselves.
Number one, detailed contracts. Always use a written contract that clearly outlines the scope of work, payment terms, and project timeline to prevent misunderstandings. Also, have a color chart sheet and have the customer sign off on it once you confirm colors. That way, once the project is finished, and let's say, for example, they don't like the color scheme, you'd have to do a change order, which you would have to charge instead of redoing something for free because it wasn't in writing. Many different examples for this, but the clear scope of work, you can't just go, let's say, full interior repaint and that's it. You have to outline every room, because what if they don't want a room and then all of a sudden like, oh yeah, I thought you were going to paint this room and it wasn't included in your pricing.
If it's not in writing, it never happened. Whatever you communicate with your customer, it needs to be in writing. That's how we have. So for this clause or reason, we have 3 separate forms that protect us. Number one is the scope of work form, that everything that the sales rep communicated with the customer, the production manager, whoever was doing the estimate, whoever was putting the work order together, writes there in detail. Number 2, we have obviously the contracts that are very detailed, and we put there every single thing that we're going to be doing from the scope of work, payment terms, materials used, warranties. And number 3, especially for interiors and exteriors too, it's called the color chart agreement sheet, which we make customers also decide the colors, especially if it's a big interior and it has multiple colors. It's like a chart. It has living room, which room, kitchen, all the rooms in the house, color, and then customers, he fills that in, and then we sign it off before we buy a big order of paint. Once they sign off the color chart agreement, then we proceed with buying paint. That way you protect yourself, because the reason we created that is because in the past, I remember a job specifically that we painted everything Repos gray, which was like a purplish undertone. And then the customer's like, oh my God, it looks so purple. I was like, that's the color. She's like, oh, can you check for misting? Can you check? Actually, it happened this last week too with the Simply White. I forgot. So it happens very often. So the customer's like, oh, this color doesn't look right. Check for the formula. Make sure it's right. We checked the formula. We went to the paint store. That's the color. And then she was like, oh, can you repaint it? I was like, yeah, it's going to be X amount for a change order. And she went crazy on us. So we ended up at the time, not this recent one, but at the time we kind of met in the middle, like, okay, we'll just charge you for labor. We'll cover the materials. And then that's how we came to an agreement. And then we're like, let's come up with a piece of paper that we make them sign off once they decide the colors. That way we don't have to take a hit again in the future. And then actually happened last week. Our customer, we were color matching Simply White. Was it Simply White or Chantilly Lace?
It's Simply White, yeah.
Which is a Benjamin Moore color. We were color matching it to a Sherwin-Williams color. And the lady was like, oh, it looks yellowish and it looks this and that. I'm like, she brought up the formula thing again. She's like, did you guys make sure you got the right formula? We double checked the formula. Carmelo went and did a sample. We're like, that's the collar. And she's like, oh, can we change it to Chantilly lace? I don't like how it looks in the bathroom. If we didn't have a collar, I mean, she was a nice lady. The other lady was trying to take advantage of it, but we still had the collar chart agreement. And she was cool with the change order, so we're just going to change the color of the walls.
Majority of the people, they'll be nice about it, but if you don't follow through with this, you'll get that small percentage where they're trying to take advantage of you.
Yeah.
So this is what we're trying to prevent with this color chart sheet agreement and also the detailed contracts.
You'll still get a bad apple, every apple crate.
I feel like all the reasons listed here are because of one bad apple.
Or like 10.
Yeah.
10 or like 20 apples. Or like 30. We do a lot of jobs. All right, so that's for reason number 1.
Number 2, document the condition of the property before starting. Take before pictures of any damages you see before you start laying paper down or before you start pressure washing outside. Avoiding liability for damages that you haven't caused and have proof of. Point out said damages and show pictures to the customer before you begin work so they can acknowledge that they were there and they didn't occur whilst you were there.
All right.
Oh boy.
Let's start. Which one you want to talk about?
Recently, ever since we started implementing this, it saved us from this kitchen cabinet that we were doing. Whoever was there before us, when we went and did the estimate, the floors were fine. Well, the first day we went and started to go pick up the doors, the floors were all scratched up. It was like nice hardwood floor. So we're like, okay, it's 8 o'clock. Let me take my pictures, timestamp, like nothing has been removed, nothing has been moved. And then immediately send it to the client just so they can acknowledge it.
Yeah, especially when, and then it was us there, our guys, and there was other painters. Because a lot of times we'll win the bid for cabinets, but we're too expensive
For the interior.
Or the rest of the work. So they'll end up going with another painter. And that was a situation that happened. And then the other painters literally bombed everything. There was overspray everywhere. There was paint drips on the floor, scratches on the floor. And then if you don't have that documentation, or if you don't document it as soon as it happened or you noticed it, then you might be the one liable for it. How can you prove that you are the one doing it? So that's a good reason. Also, another thing that we do when we start a project, we have our guys go around and then look for paint on the hinges, paint on the floors, paint on furniture, damages. I remember a job vividly in Michigan that we were doing cabinets, and there was a big scratch on the floor right in front of the stove. And that's when we were moving appliances ourselves. Now we don't do anymore. If the customer wants the appliances moved, they have to do it themselves. Or if we move them, we assume no liability if something gets damaged, broken, or scratched. So I remember that job. We moved the stove. There was a scratch there before. And after the job was completed, whatever, the lady's like, oh, there's a scratch on my floor. I'm like, oh, fuck, here we go. And I didn't have a picture of the scratch on the floor. And then we tried to like stain it. We tried to do, we had to take responsibility because we didn't protect ourselves from, just a simple timestamp picture or while the job started, like, hey, look, there's a scratch here. Before I move your stove, I just want to make you aware of it so you don't at the end like, oh, did you guys scratch my floor? I can think of so many jobs.
And then sometimes I haven't, the reason I said show it to the customer so they can acknowledge it, because I've taken a picture of the damage before and then all of a sudden some of them, they're like devious and try to blame you for it. They're like, oh, what's this right here? And I'll be like, well, it was already there before. How do I know it was already there before? And then show the timestamp picture and everything. But that avoids that unnecessary conflict. The
best way is to do it as soon as you start the project. You have a walk around with everybody, the crew leaders, the painters. Everybody has a walk around before they start prepping, before they do anything, before they start moving furniture. You have the walk around and then you document everything. That's the time to do it, and that's the time to bring it up with the customer. If you wait too long, if you wait until the end, then it's your fault that you're getting screwed over.
Moving on to number 3, clear communication. Maintain open lines of communication with clients throughout the project to address any concerns promptly and professionally, any pushbacks, etc. Communicate expectations from the very beginning so there won't be any misunderstandings at the level of finish.
Okay, you want to use Bloomfield job as an example?
Honest and transparency. Which one is that? Bloomfield?
The one that we were there for 5 days floating and skimming repairs because
Oh,
historic
no, that's
home.
Birmingham. Oh yeah, that's Birmingham. So again, this was my fault. That's why you have to be clearly transparent on what the level of expectation should be. So this lady was under the impression that she was watching all those Instagram videos of level 5 finishes, like the plain X sanding and like
Us making everything perfect on
perfectly
Instagram.
smooth walls. And I didn't tell her like, hey, this is how it's gonna be, because she didn't tell me, and I didn't ask like, hey, what's the level of expectation you want on these walls? They're a little bit dated, we'll patch and everything, all that. So we do our standard process, standard patching, and then the final walkthrough comes around, and she comes up with a flashlight and is like,
A military grade flashlight.
what are all these? What are all these? I'm like, repairs. I mean, it's a historic home. It's probably been painted multiple times, so some repairs,
Brush marks.
some repairs,
roller marks.
some repairs we can't really make them flush, no matter how much we float them, or if we do a complete skim coat. And he's like, "Oh, I thought that's what you were gonna do." I was like, "When did I communicate that? It's not written in the scope of work." And it was just a lot of back and forth, and I just gave up. And I'm like, "Okay, here's what we're gonna do. We'll just go around and check the patches that you're not happy with, and redo those as well." 5 days.
5 days.
5 days, and she was still not,
She's still not happy.
100% happy. But
So I was like, you know what? We just gave up. We're like,
Yeah.
dating. I might just buy a new house.
if you're buying a historic home, it's
Yeah, just
the
buy a new
patina.
house. Like, it's not worth level 5ing anything in here. It's not worth doing anything. So just buy a new house from scratch. It'll probably end up being cheaper. So yeah, that was our fault. We didn't communicate the expectations, number one. And also, we were not asking enough questions to understand the needs and wants, which, again, was our fault. It was not the customer's fault. They don't know the standard preparation for painters. They're not a painter. That's why they're hiring a professional. We didn't ask the right questions. We didn't communicate it, so we ended up getting burned. And then, which episode we were talking about? The diamond package?
I think it was 3 episodes ago.
So we're talking about, I don't know if you guys remember about the diamond package that one of our reps created by himself. That was a clear case of, setting crazy high expectations and not delivering. So make sure you tell your customers, even when you're finishing cabinets, hey, if your cabinets are banged up and falling apart, I cannot make them brand new. Just be honest and transparent from the beginning. It'll take you way further than just trying to make it work and then stressing yourself out. Just be honest and transparent from the beginning. And if the customer is not understanding, then it's not a good customer for you, because they're gonna create a lot of headaches that you don't want to be dealing with, no matter how much money. So just set those expectations from the beginning. Or when you walk into a project, tell them like, hey, I cannot do much with this, man. Like, I was doing an estimate yesterday, and then they had like oak cabinets, pretty beat up. They're like, we want to refinish them, and can you make them look right? I'm like, the amount of money you're gonna spend with me refinishing and then getting these oak cabinets right, and to look them to look how my sample is looking, we might as well just get you new kitchen cabinets. And then we end up, instead of refinishing the kitchens, we're just gonna do
Refacing?
No, we're just gonna do new cabinets for everything. I could walk in, charge them a lot of money, get the job, and I know I would not be able to deliver the level of expectations because they were expecting their cabinets to look like my sample that I was showing them. So I was honest and transparent with them, like, that will never happen, no matter who's doing the job. Let's just get new cabinets. And then they were appreciative of that. They understood that I was looking out for the best interest, and they ended up going with us. Simple as that. So honesty will take you way further than just trying to like make it work and experimenting and then getting screwed over at the end and having an unsatisfied, unhappy customer.
Number 4, clear access paths. Ensure that work areas are free of obstacles to prevent accidents and improve efficiency. Don't leave your tools hanging around. Communicate with your customer on where would you set up shop at the end of the day where your tools or materials won't be in their way. Implement a cleanup policy at the end of each day. You never want to hear a customer just going in an area and then they step on something and, I hurt my foot.
Guys, I have such a good story.
I hurt my foot.
So back in the subcontracting days when we were broke and we didn't have enough work, So we're getting subwork from this big company. And then they gave us plastic to cover stairs. It was carpeted stairs, and the visqueen plastic, it's slippery, like crazy slippery. Whatever, we covered with whatever the contractor gave us. And then I remember vividly the homeowner coming down so fast from those stairs because he slipped on the plastic. And I was like, oh my God. And he got embarrassed. And then I never seen anybody get up so fast ever in my life. So he gets up, he's like, I'm okay. I'm like, oh my God, man, I'm so sorry. That's what they gave us. He's like, oh, no, it's all good. It's my fault. The guy came down so fast, which could have caused a lot of trouble if he broke something, if he got hurt. So that was my eye opener. I'm like, never, ever, no matter what kind of stairs they are, you don't use plastic on them because it makes them so slippery. That's one way to protect yourself from having clear access paths. Also making sure the access paths are safe to walk on.
They're not slip hazards.
They're not slip hazards, but I still remember, I can close my eyes right now. I can see the guy going down so fast and getting up even faster. But yeah, make sure the clear access paths, also safe access paths. Or if you think it's not safe to walk on that area, let them know ahead of time. Or put, tape in an X shape or something from wall to wall or banister to wall. And then tell the customer, hey, I'm sorry, you cannot use the stairs. You cannot use this hallway because you might fall. You might break something. And then we'll let you know when it's safe to walk again. Same with tools. Same as pumps, being laid over all over the place. Or the cable of the pumps inside a house. If let's say you have a 100-foot line running all over the house and it's messy and then you just leave it or whatever, that's a trip hazard too. Not only for the customers, but yourself, your guys, especially if you're working on a second story with stairs, banisters, and we work in some pretty big houses, so we have to make sure there's always clear access paths for our guys to work safe. Safety first. Don't leave stuff under ladders. That's another big thing because you can step, the guy working on a ladder, you leave, let's say, a 501 or a caulk gun or your spray gun or whatever, and it's right underneath it. He's not really paying attention what's underneath it. He expects a clear ground to step when he gets off the ladder, and then he steps on it, and then he steps on your 501 or whatever tool. He can roll his ankle, he can break his ankle. So many things can go wrong. The ladder can tip. Just make sure every areas are your tools are organized. That's why we make sure when we start a project, we're like, okay, this is our tool area.
This is our shop, basically.
This is our shop area for the project. This is where all tools go. This is where we keep everything organized. We don't leave tools and pumps and whatever laying all over the place. That's such a bad look. Also, it's unsafe.
And also the cleanup policy. You don't want any loose plastics or papers lying around.
Yeah.
Stuff like that.
Clean up the job site every day and organize the job site every day. It's going to save you from a lot of headaches, and it's going to give a nice aesthetic look of a clean, organized job site. And also you'll feel better. It's you work better when you have an organized job site.
Number 5, set payment milestones. Structure payments in stages. Examples given like deposit, progress payments, final payment to ensure cash flow and incentivize timely completion. Bigger projects, you can't just go 50-50 due upon completion with the deposit. You have to get creative, so you won't be using your own money to cash flow or finance the project until you get that final payment.
It's important to make your customer understand that we cannot cash flow their projects. The $100 deposit that we used to do, the 10% deposit, it stresses you out. You wait on money. You front out a lot of money, especially on a bigger project. It's not a good business method for long term. It's good to jumpstart your brand, get your name out there, but once you establish a good presence, that you are a good contractor in your market, you're not gonna run away with people's deposits, then you have to make sure that your project cost somehow is covered and you're not cash flowing the customer's project, because that's not why we're there. We're there to paint, make sure they're happy, and then make money. and then fronting up a lot of cash, especially on bigger projects, it's literally gonna kill you. That's why we switched completely. We used to do $100 deposit when we first started the first year to get a spot on our schedule. Then we were 10% deposit. Then we went 25%. And then the more projects we start getting, and the more we start getting tight on cash flow, because we would run out of money to pay the guys at the end of the week and our bills. We're like, okay, we cannot be doing this. We cannot do 10 projects a week and get only 10, 25% deposit. We run out of money. Because a lot of times projects, they won't get done in a week. They'll roll over to the next. So we're like, 50% deposit gets covered, at least the payroll, because you use net 20 on your Sherwin-Williams account, so you can wait 20 days to pay those out. But at least your labor is covered from that 50% deposit. And then on a bigger project, let's say you do a 3-week project, let's say you'd start 25% on the first day. Then the week goes by, you do another 25%. Then let's say you reach a milestone, you finish all the ceilings, all the trim, you do another 25%, so you can cash flow, pay your bills, pay your guys, pay materials, and then once the project is completed, then you do the remainder upon completion. There's many ways you can be creative, and the customers will be understanding, and if a customer is not understanding on that, then you should walk, because it's a red flag if they don't understand that we're not there to cash flow their projects. Be creative and make sure you're always covered with money in that aspect. Set payment terms and make sure you put them in the contract. And then make sure you date them, or make sure they acknowledge the milestone, like time. Let's say, once all the walls are primed, X amount is gonna be due. And that's a good way to work with builders too. Because a lot of times, like us, we don't work with builders who do net 30, net 60, net 14. We're good. We don't need that stress in our lives. So what we do is we'll do a deposit and we'll do milestones. Once we prime the walls, once we finish the walls, once we finish the trim, we'll do draws. And then that's how we work also with commercial projects. We don't do net anything. Either take out payment terms or walk. And if they agree with them, we set up the milestones, and then we automate our system to generate invoices right away. And it's very easy. We don't even need to get a check. They just go in there, ACH, wire us the money. A lot of times we've walked from projects. I can vividly remember at least a dozen that we walked. And then we're like, hey, those are our terms. You're not meeting our terms. That's bad business for us. We don't trust you anymore, because you knew our terms walking into this. And then we just walked. I'm like, I'm out. I'm sorry. I cannot finish your project because you're not respecting my terms, which I made you aware from the beginning. We were doing this coffee, ice cream spots. They moved from a different state. They moved down here. They opened like three or four locations in Tampa. And we bid all 4 locations to do interior painting, exterior painting. We started with exterior painting. And then I made very clear our terms from the beginning. I'm like, this is our terms. We're not the traditional painter. We're not going to work with net 14, net 30, whatever. We work 50% deposit, 50% due upon completion. 50% deposit, 50% due upon completion. Like, yeah, that's fine. They were very anxious to get started and get those projects done. So like, yeah, that's fine. So we finished the first ice cream spot. They give us deposit for that one, and then they give us a deposit for the second ice cream spot. So we start the first one, we finish it, everything is good, job gets punched out, I generate my invoice to get paid for the remaining due upon completion, and then my guys start work on the second location. We do some work, we pressure wash, we remove some signs,
paint.
We do some patchwork, whatever. 3 days go by. I'm like, hey guys, my invoice is 3 days overdue. What's the deal with that? So, they start bullshitting, we'll get it. They were never going to get it. That's why I got pissed. I was like, okay, you guys are telling me you're going to get it, and then you're not getting it. So we'll do some work there. So I'm like, guys, it's Friday. I'm still waiting for my money on the other one. What's the status? And the guy calls me. He's like, hey, man, we'll get you your money. Come on now. This is not traditional. Like, we don't do these payment terms. I'm like, dude, I literally told you the only way I'll do these projects is if I work with my terms. What do you mean you don't work with these terms now? And I got pissed. I'm like, you know what? The deposit from this one washes off the first one. I'm like, don't call me again. And we just walked. We literally walked. We left the project. I called my guys. I'm like, don't pack up. We're moving on to the next. The guy calling, he's like, come on, man. He's like, oh, I'll get you your money. I'll get you this. I like, dude, don't call me again, ever. He's like, what about the touch-up paint, the warranty for the other one? Like, you get 10-10 warranty, 10 seconds, 10 feet away. Your warranty is completely waived. I don't trust doing business with you. So that's one situation. And then we have other ones too. But if they don't meet your terms, I just walk. And I think that's the best way to do business.
Because in a way, if you lean into their terms, it's like they have control over you. And
I didn't start my own business to have other people like push me around and be on their terms. It's either my terms or I'll go work at McDonald's.
Number 6, use liability waivers. Have clients sign a liability waiver to further clarify responsibilities regarding personal property and damages. It's their responsibility to protect or secure their valuables prior to the beginning of the project. Make that clear. You want to avoid scenarios that, oh yeah, I'm missing this and this. Oh yeah, I'm missing that and that.
Or expensive art.
That too.
That's another scenario.
Anything that's valuable.
Or the lady might be like, oh, this little shitty statue right here, or this pot of
this vase is $6,000.
Yeah. I'm like, that's a piece of shit vase. What do you mean it's $6,000? But it actually might be a $6,000 vase. So that waiver makes us non-liable for any damages that they were supposed to remove, conceal, protect, get out of our way. It might be expensive art. It might be expensive memorabilia. We've done a lot of famous athletes' houses that they had expensive. I remember vividly, this guy had a Michael Jordan jersey and a Kobe Bryant jersey signed by Kobe Bryant and Michael Jordan. I'm like, that has to be worth at least $100K. The jersey signed by Kobe and Jordan. And then I remember, I was like, dude, all your memorabilia, your trophies, your championship rings, you have to put all that away because it's very expensive stuff. It can go missing, it can get misplaced. We can get overspray on it. We can get paint drips on it. So many things. Or I can try to put plastic on it, and next thing you know, the jersey things fall, or your trophy falls, and then it breaks, and the jersey gets ripped, or so many possible scenarios. So I'm like, you're responsible to remove all your memorabilia, your trophies, your signed jerseys, whatever it might be, because I don't want to assume that liability, because there's no way to really put value on those things, so I cannot replace them. That's number one. Then you have guns. We've walked into places, like the guys, they had fucking guns laying all over, good people, but that's another liability. We don't want to be moving your fucking AR-15 rifle or your hunting gun, or I'm like, I don't want to touch that. I don't know what you're going to do after. Or one specific scenario, the lady kept a pistol in her kitchen. I was like, hey, I'm sorry, can you please remove that? We don't want to touch it. That's another scenario. They have to sign that liability. Like, you remove those things because, first, I don't want my fingerprints on any gun that I don't own. And number two, what if one of my guys that has no idea about handling guns tries to move it and discharges? That's another thing that you need to be aware. Number three, expensive jewelry, watches. They can get misplaced. They can fall under, like, how many times your girlfriends, they lose an earring and then they can't find it ever, and then 7 months go by. The next thing you know, they find the earring. That can happen to the customers too. Something drops. They're like, oh, it got lost. Somebody took it. And next thing you know, they find it. It happened to one of our customers. He had his Rolex somewhere, and then he thought he lost it, or he thought we took it. And then he's like, I was going to call you, Redion. But then 3 days go by, he found his Rolex. So we have to make sure we have those waivers. Like, hey, make sure you put your valuables away so they don't get lost, or they don't get misplaced, or they don't get damaged. Because imagine getting overspray or paint drips on a Rolex, or break it, falls down and breaks. What else? Jewelry, guns, expensive memorabilia, cash, credit cards, wallets, everything that has value. We're not responsible or liable if it gets misplaced, damaged, or lost. So we let our customers know, we make them sign the waiver, and make sure you remove all this prior to us coming in and starting work, especially with expensive art and memorabilia. then you don't want to be responsible for removing those. Or if you end up removing them, just make sure you're covered if it breaks or it crumbles in your hands while you're moving the picture. Expensive, any cars, not expensive cars, any cars on driveways, garages, they have to be removed for overspray while you're working, just protect from the mist. Everything off the driveway, off the house while we're painting.
Number 7, conduct background checks. Make sure you're not just putting anybody off the streets in people's houses. Ensure they have a good reputation and background and relevant experience in working inside houses, especially. You don't want to be putting any Joe Schmo that,
A crackhead.
Those liability waivers are...
Yeah, you can't just grab a crackhead from the street and throw it in a $2 million house. That's, very high risk. Anything can go wrong. I think that's a given, make sure your background check.
Pretty self-explanatory.
Pretty self-explanatory. Especially if you're doing high-end homes, you have a responsibility to your customer to have your employees, even yourself. I don't know. If I was a criminal, I wouldn't want my customers trusting me to go in their houses. So
it can be something that can come and bite you in the ass because even though let's say you have that liability or whatever, and something does end up missing, and hey, this guy, he has a track record. Why? How do we know he didn't do it? Then this liability. So it can come and bite you in the ass.
Don't trust anybody.
Number 8. Maintain detailed records. Keep thorough records of all transactions, communications, and project details to provide clarity and support in case of disputes, especially change orders.
Mm-hmm.
Text conversations between the client. I would say never do anything over the phone.
Yeah.
Because it can get documented, especially like change orders. So it can be verbal, but unless you have it in writing, which can be either text or in the form of a paper or through their email, then never really happened. Then they have the upper hand on you.
Especially if things start going wrong and then there's friction starting to get created between you and a customer, never jump on the phone with them. Do everything through text. That way there's records of the exchange. And then, if things go south, you're protecting yourself at all times. Especially if a customer is pissed, I'm not jumping on the phone with them. There is no way I'm going to get on the phone and argue with a pissed customer. I'm like, hey, I'm sorry, I cannot talk right now. Please text me. If they insist calling, I'll be like, hey, please text me. And then they'll end up texting. Otherwise, they cannot talk to me. That's the only way to protect yourself, because a lot of times customers will get very aggressive on the phone, or they'll start talking smack, they'll start cursing you out. And we've had that happen for dumb reasons. A lot of people are miserable out there, and then they just take it out on the contractors. So the best way to protect yourself from, let's say, a bad review, or we've seen stories of people threatening threatening contractors and painters, and so you have to have that proof if you have to take legal action. Little tip: if a customer is pissed and trying to get you on the phone, don't jump on the phone with them. Do everything through text or email. That way, and I don't know if you're good at controlling your emotions. Like a lot of you, like me, younger, I'll get pissed. I'm like, who the fuck are you cursing out, lady? And I'll just go right back at her, which is not good. You always have to be the bigger person, and then keep your cool at all times. And then through the phone, it's much harder versus through text. You're typing it, and you're like, oh shit, I should not say that. Let me rephrase it. Let me be more gentle or not offend her. That's why I prefer de-escalating situations through text or email.
Number 9, create a contingency fund. Set aside funds for unexpected expenses or damages that may arise during projects to protect your cash flow, such as a broken TV or a broken window. Stuff like that.
Broken windshield, I remember my first job ever as a painter I worked for these Italian guys. And then the reason I quit is because I put a ladder right through a window. And I was like, I'm out. See you never. And then the guys kept calling me. He's like, what happened? And I was like, don't call me again. So I hope they had a contingency fund for the window I broke. They let me handle a 40-foot ladder by myself. I've never carried a 40-foot ladder before in my life. Like, oh, you're a strong guy. You're a big guy. You can carry it. I was like, okay. And the next thing you know, I put the ladder right through the window. I was like, I'm finding a job. But yeah, you have to account for unexpected expenses, things getting broken. And that fund, it's the cost of doing business pretty much. You have to, it's like a little insurance. If something goes wrong, you always have that money to cover the expenses right away. Because a lot of times you don't want to go through insurance. Like if you break something small, like if the damages are like under $15,000, it's not worth making a claim. Just cover the thing, figure out the customer. If there's something else, like for example, I know one of our painter, like one of the contractors that we talked to and we consult, they had overspray on a $50,000 metal roof. Then that's different. That has to go through insurance. They had to replace all the roof and stuff. So obviously you cannot swing a $50,000 brand new metal roof. That has to go through insurance. But like for smaller stuff, always has a contingency fund or cash aside. That way you can settle those and de-escalate those situations fast. And then the customer, is happy. You move on to the next one.
On the final one, number 10, establish a dispute resolution process. Create a clear process for resolving disputes with clients, which can help de-escalate issues before they become serious. Offering a satisfaction guarantee to show your commitment to quality work can help mitigate disputes over the final outcome. This can help protect your brand and establish yourself as a 100% satisfaction guarantee no matter what.
Yes. So, for example, our mission statement is our customer needs to be happy at all times, no matter what that takes, unless, it's some crazy person and then they're taking advantage of our mission statement. But whatever is making them unhappy, we want to take immediate action to resolve it. So we take action, we ask questions later. If the job went wrong, we'll fix it. We'll figure out why we went wrong later. If we broke something, we'll replace it. We'll figure out later if it was our fault, if it was, whatever it might be. Take action so that way you're standing by your mission statement and then you tell the customer, hey, I'm not sure what happened, but I want you to be happy at all times and satisfied. So I'm going to take action. That doesn't mean that I assume responsibility for it, but I'm here working in an active job site in your house, and I appreciate you respecting us and trusting us to be in your house. So I'm going to stand by my mission statement and then my brand and then do right by you. And then I'll figure out later if it was our fault, if we broke it, whatever it might be, if it was our paint that failed or if it was the warranty claim was valid. All that we'll figure out later. But for now, I want to make sure you're taken care of. That's the best way to deal because you can escalate. They can start talking smack online for you, your reputation, take a hit in your brand. They can, take legal action. A lot of things can go wrong. And then even if let's say you broke something, even if you didn't do it, and then you have to go to court, you have to go deal with lawyers, it's not worth the headaches. It's better just like, hey, I'll take care of it now. If it was our fault, fine. If it was not, figure it out. It'll always come back. As long as your conscience is right, and then also, as long as you take care of people and stand behind to what you tell the people. Because if you offer a 100% satisfaction guarantee and they're not satisfied because you broke their expensive memorabilia or you broke their TV, and they're pissed at you, that's not 100% satisfaction guaranteed. They're pissed at you because you broke their TV. So you have to replace that TV and then hope that they're 100% satisfied. But even if they're not, and they're like, oh, these guys suck because they broke my TV, then you can respond back like, hey, I know we broke your TV, shit happens, but we did right by you. Here's the receipts. Here's the new TV that we bought for you. And that way other customers see, let's say they leave you a bad review. Other customers, they see that you responded and you stood behind your personal guarantee and you did right by them. And then it's up to the customer. Logical and normal people will appreciate your gesture that you did right. Other people, and then they'll be like, oh, these guys suck. We're not hiring them because our TVs are at risk. And so be it. So not everybody's your customer. Do you have anything else to add on that?
I can think of one story where we've broken a TV. We've
broken a lot of TVs for context.
But that certain one, just because of the dispute resolution process, so the clients were away on a cruise, for like a 7-day cruise, and we were painting their interior. First day in, guys are just covering floors and whatnot. There was nothing on the TV yet, and then all of a sudden they just hear this thump. TV's falling down out of the mount. No way to save it. So we're like, okay, let's just find the serial number, get a new TV, leave it in the box, and then once we're done, we can just, just when the clients come back, because imagine you're on a cruise, and then you text them and like, hey, we just broke your TV. They just start freaking out. They're like, oh no.
Shit. I burned down my house.
And after they came back from vacation, we explained the situation to them after we took a look into like, hey, what was causing this? The TV mount wasn't even on any studs, or it wasn't anchored anywhere, so it was bound to fall at one point. Unfortunately, it fell
on us.
But we still took the hit, bought a brand new TV for them, which theirs was a little bit outdated, but we had to opt for a newer model, which was close to that. Mm-hmm. So they got an upgrade, and they were very appreciative of it. We just told them like, hey, the TV mount is not supposed to go here. There's nowhere for it to grab onto. So they were very appreciative.
It was not our fault, but we did right by them.
Yeah, and they even asked, oh, like, how much was it? We're like, don't worry about it.
Yeah, we'll take care of it. We take care of our customers, and you should take care of your customers too, even if they're wrong. That way you protect your brand and your reputation.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Sweet. All right. This will wrap up this episode of the Dirty Painters podcast.
Be sure to follow our business on Instagram at Olympian Painting, and also our personal pages, Olympian_Redion, Olympian_Karmelo, and keep up with the episodes of the Dirty Painters podcast.
If you like this episode, be sure to share it with a fellow painter or tradie. Until next time, this is Redion.
And I'm Karmelo.
Signing out from the Dirty Painters podcast.
Take care.
Thank you, guys.